Hey everybody, this is Stephanie Butler Adams. I am the dance chair of CAHPERD. For those of you who don't know, CAHPERD is the California Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. And for this season, Happy New Year everyone, by the way. During this season, we're just going to be talking with some of our dance educators. We're getting ready for our big annual CAHPERD conference, and the theme this year is Everybody Moves. And I love that. Everybody moves. I love it. And today I have one of our distinguished presenters. Her name is Adrienne Bratton. And I'm really excited to just chat with her just for a few minutes about dance. Welcome, Adrienne.
Welcome to my studio here.
Oh, it's beautiful, and you are beautiful. So, Adrienne, tell us a little bit about your dance background as an educator. Where are you from? How did you get started? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
It's a very local experience.
Mm-hmm.
I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I'm one of the rare natives. And I began dancing, I think, at home with my family. At 3 years old, my family liked music. My mother and father were part of the Rug Cutters Club at the Club Alabama. So they danced a lot. And at 3 years old, I was doing the Shorty George with my dad. And then it progressed to 4 years old. I began classical training, tap dancing with Miss Loretta Butler, the first teacher for African-American students in the city at that time. And then at about 7, I began Russian ballet with Joseph Rickard. And I found through an exhibit at Huntington Memorial, he was the first classical ballet dancer to accept students of color. And yes, and my mother taught ballet with LA City Rec and Parks after she'd take her lesson from Mr. Rickard. And then in high school, I was president of the dance club, and that was modern dance at that time, Bella Lewitsky style. And then I graduated from UCLA and began teaching. So I began teaching, but I was not teaching dance. I was teaching a self-contained classroom. However, whenever there was a May Festival or something of that nature, I was always the chairman.
Wow.
And classical dance continuing. I've done classical dance concurrently since about the 80s. I love jazz dance, and I've taken from Jamie Nichols, Jean Barlow, who's just retired, and currently I'm taking from William Brown at Hyperion Arts in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. So well, I think, did I cover everything?
We are getting a history lesson today, everybody. We are getting
you've got, yes, and I took, I did a lot of belly dance. I took from the Shah's head dancer at the time, and I performed with Sujata and Asoka, who were the first Indians to come, East Indians to come to the States. Well, so Adrienne, it's been a long.
It's so rich, and it's such a wonderful history, and to hear some of the things and some of the people that you have come up with, and especially right here, we're in the LA area. So many things that I think that people who are listening are like, wow, that's very rich. And I want you to tell us as your career evolved and how you taught back then, and what are some of the differences, just like what is one of the main differences that you see in the classroom these days when you're teaching versus back in the day, as we call it?
Let's put it this way. Back in the day, I was teaching, and I was a new teacher, and I had my degree, my credential was general elementary. So I was in a self-contained classroom. And back in the day, we taught rhythms. That's what it was called. And I had my rhythms on Friday. And I didn't fake it. That's why I was always in charge of something. Let's put it that way. The main difference I'm finding now, the teaching that I'm doing is with the LA County Parks and Rec. I've retired from LA Unified after 30 years. I'm finding there are two things. You had the multiculturalism come in, and then you had, let's go with that. And then there were that brought about certain taboos. Some cultures did this, some cultures did that. So some might keep them home if their children were dancing. So you had that, and then more recently, with these pandemics and the health situation, you have to be especially careful about distance. Let me put it that way.
Right.
And even teachers have to be careful. I currently teach young ones at LA County Parks. I'm back on the parks again. And they can't get an RSV shot. And just recently, I had a couple of families that just kept going through the whole family. And that means I need to be vaccinated if I'm going to be there to even have the class. So I think those, yes. And one other thing, CAHPERD addresses adapted PE. When I started teaching back in the day, the one thing I was most afraid of in a classroom was an epileptic seizure. Now you have, AHD, and more recently, mainstreaming not just of physically challenged students, but also the autism. And I've had one on the park, and I told the director, I said, I wasn't trained in this, so I read up on it, and everything worked out well at that point.
Wow, that's really something. And so you mentioned CAHPERD, and you mentioned some of the elements of things that we do address in the organization. How did you find CAHPERD, or did CAHPERD find you?
I found it. Let's put it that way. I was again taking an adult class, and I was Dunham, and the instructor was the late Lady Walker Vereen, and she taught with CAHPERD, and she was telling us all about it. So all of us went down, and I noticed, this was in Palm Springs. This was a complete dance weekend. And I loved going. I made it a point to go because you had the variety. I even took a class with Buddy Schwimmer, who was in ballroom, which I do. I did lift that out. That's my current. And I took some Tai Chi, and it was just a nice little weekend. And there were vendors, and I could buy cute little outfits to dance in. So that was number one. And then I don't know what happened to that experience, but then later someone contacted me because CAHPERD has an Emmett Ashford Community Service Award. And he's my father, who taught me the Shorty George at 3, and who umpired in the Caribbean because he couldn't umpire here. And that's where I first heard the salsa music. So I was going to say, I lost my train of thought.
You're giving us the essence of how you came across CAHPERD.
Yes, and CAHPERD contacted me because they were giving the Emmett Ashford Award that particular year, and they thought it would be nice if I could present the award. And I remember I traveled up north and presented the award, and one of my books, since I had written at that point, by that time, a biography of my dad. And so therefore this was the first time I had come in touch with the administrative side of CAHPERD. Like you say, my experience previously had been in the spring going to Palm Springs. And this opened up a whole new avenue in meeting different people and finding out what CAHPERD was doing.
Well, I love that. I love that. And you mentioned Lady Walker, and I think anyone who's in the LA area, my God, I mean, she is a legend. And so I'm so happy to hear that, and just your journey with presenting the award on behalf of your dad and all of this. Tell us real quickly about your book. You said you've written a book or books.
The book is called Strike with 3 R's because the rolling the R's, and that's the way he was very animated as an umpire. And when I retired from LA Unified, that was one of the first things I wanted to do. I'm not an author by career or profession. I like to write, but I wrote the books because I wanted people to know about my father and the fact also that he was a minority that had to fight the battle. He was not from a home that was poverty stricken. He did have a divorce in the family where his mom had to raise he and my Uncle Wilbur. Yet he still rose above everything. And he became the first student body president of color at Jefferson High School. Wow. And if you know Los Angeles, you know the school.
Of course.
And what's interesting back in the day, at that time, there were other people at the school that you would recognize, Alvin Ailey, Dorothy Dandridge, quite a few, but these were people who all wanted to achieve. Yeah. They didn't they weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouths, but they were there to support each other, and that was the feeling that we rise.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, such a rich history, Adrienne, and you know, that's one of the things that as dance council chair for the last year, I've been wanting to let people know about CAHPERD who may not otherwise get involved. And so even this, I call it a quick history lesson that you're giving us today about your involvement and your background. You know, those of you who are interested in learning more about CAHPERD, you can go to the website at CAHPERD, that's CAHPERD.org. And there's lots of history about the mission and purpose of the organization, but also you'll see that we're having a conference coming up February the 1st to the 3rd in Garden Grove at the Hyatt Regency. And Adrienne is going to be teaching there. Adrienne, tell us real quickly, what is it that you're going to be teaching and what should your students expect in that class?
I am going to be teaching Adrienne salsa cardio. And participants should expect some fun and some really good music. And in fact, you were asking tips for teaching. Number 1 is structure, which I'm going to have to deal with because when I get there, I think I've taught in that room before. It's a large room. But when I get there, I am going to have to see just visually what ages I'm dealing with, what size class I'm dealing with. And as I move along, what levels I'm dealing with. But basically, I'll be using salsa, cha-cha, merengue rhythms. Yes, and we have fun, and everybody in every parts of the body move.
Fantastic. So Adrienne, okay, you mentioned something that I did want to touch on, quick tips for dance educators. And you just said one of the things that you look at is structure when you come into a classroom. And I think that crosses over whether you're teaching children or young adults or adults or seniors or whoever. Every class needs to have some type of structure. And then you said levels. In these last few moments, give our educators, especially our movement and dance educators, some insight on how you adapt your teaching to a room full of folks who are at all different technical levels.
Okay, well, I have a plan. I already have my playlist and some plan A and plan B, depending on how it goes toward the end to adapt to the theme, because I will teach. I'll knock the last 10 minutes off my regular salsa cardio class to accommodate the variations you can use. But number one, structure-wise, walking in that room, I'm going to have to see how it's set up. According to the number of people, how am I going to have lines on the side of me? Or are you going to be in lines in front with everybody's little window? But I make sure that everyone can see. And if there is a larger group, we may change rows. That's one thing. Secondly, like you say, when I talk, I think music is important, and I say good music because if I don't have good music, I'm not going to generate the energy and the enthusiasm that I want you to have.
True.
So that's secondly, and what is my third one would techniques, again, not knowing the levels. There are people and learning styles. Everyone has different learning styles. So, originally you would count and we go 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. Some people don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
We start at home, right foot goes out, go for a walk, front and home, left and home, right and home, back and home. You can substitute words, and I find that especially effective teaching the children. So children I teach start at 3.5 years old, so we make only count to 4 anyway.
So you make it work. And I love the simplicity of it all. Sometimes when you're dealing with different levels, you do have to break it down. But I'm looking forward to your class in February. And tell us one more time. It's Adrienne's
Salsa Cardio. And I'll be, like you say, using the rhythms from the Caribbean of salsa, cha-cha, merengue, and I will add bachata. That's in that extra section. And we might try a little takeoff on the Rueda, Casino Rueda, which is Cuban. And that's a group dance. And if we have birthdays, I have another experience there and the music.
I love it. Well, listen, you all, I hope that you've enjoyed A, the history lesson, B, the wonderful Adrienne Bratton, who has just really inspired us today, truly. And I hope that you are planning to come to the CAHPERD Everybody Move Conference, February 1st through the 3rd in Garden Grove. You can register, go to the website, CAHPERD.org. Adrienne, thank you so much for sharing with us, sharing your insight, your wisdom, your joy. I know you love to move. I can tell just talking to you and listening to you and just being so inspirational. So thank you so much. And we will see you next time, everyone. Stay tuned for more dance chats from CAHPERD. Thank you.
And you're welcome. And thank you for presenting this type of format.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adrienne. Bye, everybody.